Is with me. Good morning, sunshine. 10 weeks old. Oh my gosh, how did that happen so fast? She's fattening up so beautifully. Here she is, Corey, our 11th born. So today I get to talk to you about something that I know very intimately is how to stop picking up after everybody. Because I, as a big family mom, started picking up really fast, pretty much as soon as I became a mom. Because I understand, like in the first year or so of a child's life, they just make messes, right? It's not until they get to be about 16, 18 months old and they're really walking and able to even conceive of the language with pick it up, put it back, and start to copy and emulate your behavior, that you're going to start to even begin to do this. But once they get to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 16 years old, picking up after everybody gets old really fast, and it can be so frustrating. Example, my children get into this habit. I think it happens every summer. So sometimes you just have to go over the same lesson, like flushing the toilet. Well, one of them that they have to go over again and again is putting their shoes away. So right now we're still in the thick of winter where I live in Canada, so there's still snow on the ground. But as soon as the Crocs come out in a couple of weeks, they get so excited when we finally put on rain boots, and then we merge out of rain boots, and then we're back into Crocs or running shoes. They're so excited to get out, right? Everybody's so excited for spring. And when they come tearing back in the house to like use the bathroom or whatever, just gonna get Corey going here, the shoes end up almost getting kicked everywhere. We have a mud room that you can come into, like go off to the bathroom, or you can come into the main part of the house. Well, the way to get to the bathroom from where I'm right now in the kind of kitchen dining room area, you have to go right across the mudroom. And it can become a landmine littered with little shoes. Oh, she's just spat up a little. So it can drive me bonkers. And I'm just about ready to scream some days. And I'm just like, we've gone over this. So what do I do so that I can keep my calm and ultimately not become the picker upper of all things everywhere all the time? Because it like I said, it not only does it get old fast, it can become a real source of frustration. I can feel resentful towards my children, like I said, ready to just holler because my emotions can flare so quickly. Like I said, when it becomes a safety issue, a traffic issue, and also even like a respect thing. And I'm like, how many times have I told you? Right, the same lesson. And when you have a big family like mine, or you just happen to be at the season of life where you have children that are 10 and under, repeating the same lesson over and over, I get it. It can become emotionally tiring because the lessons we taught, sometimes our kids that are now 12 plus, we're still teaching them to the kids that are younger. Because in a big family model, you eventually kind of have everybody at every stage, the teens, the middle, and the littles, and then, newborn. So teaching that same lesson isn't just a temporary thing. It does kind of always in the season of littles, or always in the season of toddler, always in the season of training people to pick up after themselves, so that mom doesn't become really just a slave to her children's kicking their shoes all over the place, dropping their toys all over the place, moving on to the next thing without looking back, which I get it. So here's a couple of thoughts of how I have curbed the insanity so that I don't, like I said, become really resentful towards my children, resort to yelling and screaming, or just kind of cave in and pick up all the time, and then secretly be building up for a big showdown when mom finally blows all of that suppressed emotion of picking up after everybody. So a couple of things, and this is broadly speaking because it would depend on the specific ages of your children. If I was going to really hone in and give personal advice, on giving some broad strokes, what's helped me stop picking up after everybody in my big family once they were old enough to do so. Definitely by the time they're 4, 5, definitely by the time they're 6 years old, there's really no excuse anymore. There's grace to be learning, and there's also some tricks that can really help me. So number one is to set the expectations from the beginning. And it's okay to go over it, like I said, every season when springtime comes, and just to kind of have what's the sports term when you pull everyone together and you have huddle. I'm not into sports. So when you have a team huddle, and you say, okay, everybody, it's time for the Crocs to come out. It's time for the running shoes to come out. It's a big emotional, exciting moment. Like, say, here's the deal, right? So just remind them. Don't expect them to remember a rule that you haven't really had to lay down in 6 months. So then I just say with a big smile on my face that I'm believing the best of them, and there's still grace to, not be perfect, because nobody's perfect. It's like stating the obvious, like the sun is hot. So here's the deal, reminding them of the expectation. When you come in the house, you put your shoes here. So this is assuming you actually have a place for the shoes to actually go, which sometimes is a logistics issue. We have a series of these pull-out drawers we got from IKEA, and we call them your outside drawers. So you can put your mittens, your hat, you can put your shoes. You may not, however, collect pine cones and rocks and living things and keep them in those drawers. They're just for your outside stuff. So my kids do legitimately have a place to put things, and I just direct them to, here's where they go, so right off the bat, I reminded them. Another thing is if the older kids who are 10 plus, and they know better, we've gone over this lesson now multiple years in a row, and there's no developmental delays or anything like that. They're just, some kids are really prone to being like, where's the action? Where's the party, right? They kick off their shoes and poof, they're gone. They're playing with a puzzle and poof, they're gone. They don't look back. They're really action-oriented people, always moving on to the next best thing. So there's grace for them when I recognize some of my children are very, very industrious, very studious, very quiet, and they don't need to be told to clean up. They just do. So I don't hold them as a standard against the other kids who are more halfway in the future, right? They're always off to the next best thing. So I don't never shame them and say, why don't you be more like your quiet, more introverted, highly detail-oriented planner child like so-and-so. I don't recommend it. I get it. I understand thinking it. I would caution against saying it. Instead, I just see them for who they are and give them some personal counsel. And at that point, I sit down and have a personal one-on-one. And this is where I gently but firmly lay down the law. So what it looks like is this. I might pull them back and say, it's time to pick up your stuff. Pick up your stuff before you move on to the next thing. And I always motivate with the next thing. Because, it's just human nature. Put a carrot on the stick, right? You're like, oh, hey, do you want to go, play with the kids are playing upstairs? You want to go join the thing that's happening now where, hey, we're about to have lunch. It's time to clean up. So I give them heads up warning, like, hey, guys, 5 minutes, we're going to have lunch. Hey, guys, in 5 minutes, 2 minutes, we're going to, read some stories together. What we're going to paint. It's usually pretty motivating. Meals and snacks are pretty motivating when you're a kid, right? I give them heads up. I let them know, and it's time to do it. And if they don't, they got distracted, and they know better, then I just pull them back and say, hey, here you go, clean up, and you can join us when you're done. And it's holding the line and believing that they can do it, especially when they're old enough. If they're kind of younger, and I can see they're getting close to nap time, it's close to lunchtime, they're a bit weary, then I give them some grace, and I say, hey, I'll help you. But I do expect them to be involved. I'm not going to do 100% and teach them to actually emotionally manipulate other people with whininess or whatever. I'll help them. I'll say, hey, how about you pick up the blue ones? I'll pick up the yellow ones. We'll get it done. And then I'm emotionally reinforcing, good feelings associated with the cleanup. So cleanup is not always this like lonely time for my little social butterflies who don't like to be left out. But I do expect them to participate and do it. I got some notes on my phone. Make sure I got so much good stuff I could share with you. I could pack into this, but I'm going to keep my video to about 10, 15 minutes tops. Just give you a couple gold nuggets that have really helped me along the way. So what else do I have? Oh, this is a good one. We did this for a season, and I haven't had to do it again because it was so effective. I got to a point where everybody was leaving anything everywhere. In spite of everything I've just shared, I was like, what could I do? I don't even know where I got the idea, if I came up with it or I saw it on Pinterest or something, but I gave it a whirl and it worked like a charm. Here it is. I created a put it back chore consequence. It was like an outcome for children that were old enough to know better. I wrote down a number of little chores on some slips of paper, and I put them like in a jam jar. And they were just like little quick 5-minute chores that could be done at any time. Things like go vacuum the carpet in the mudroom, or straighten up the cushions on the couch, do a quick poop scoop in the backyard for our big Great Dane. Just quick like 5-minute chores. And then anytime anybody left any personal belongings, like they just dropped their shoes or they dropped their bag or they left out their sweater or they left out their toys, if it was a personal belonging, it went in what I call the put it back basket. It was almost like going to jail. And it was just a laundry basket that I kept up high. And I would just chuck that. If I picked it up, it wasn't coming out. And some people do like a 24-hour thing. And I've done that sometimes if it's just like shoes. but works brilliantly is that they have to basically bail it out of jail. They're going to have to come up with some bail money because I had to do the extra work. They're certainly old enough to know better now. So again, I just reinforce it by saying, hey, if you want your favorite sweater back, you want your favorite toy back, these are for personal. It really works well for personal ones. If it's the general stuff, I don't care, right? It's everybody's, it's nobody's. But if it's their stuff, yeah, they want it back, and they might have forgotten about it for a few hours, so they have to spring it out of jail, so to speak. And I say, that's no problem. Just go grab the jar and choose a chore. And they're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, listen, if you create more work for me, then you're going to have to work to get it out. It's just reinforcing them. Yes, it does take a little work, but you could either do the work at the front end, which is quick and easy, or you do some more work later. But either way, we've all got to do some work in this family. So it gave them a gentle negative reinforcement that they didn't want to go poop scoop the backyard. They didn't want to have to go and vacuum the carpet, because that does take more time and effort. So without giving them a big lecture or losing my cool, I'd be like, I just pick it up and unemotionally drop it in the put it back basket. And a day or two later, when they're like, hey, where's my Pokemon cards? Hey, where's my book that I was reading from the library? Hey, and they'd be like, oh. And I'd be like, again, very unemotional, almost like a cop issuing a ticket. I didn't take it personally. I didn't start screaming at them. I was just like, yeah, you know what to do. And if they don't do it, and I did tell them, because there was a limit. If they just chose to abandon whatever it was, at the end of the month, at the end of the calendar month, I would empty everything out of that basket, and it would go to charity or back to the library or wherever it went, but it would not be returned to them. So, and they know me. I don't bluff. I don't necessarily emotionally manipulate. I just let them know, hey, here's how it goes. It's like gravity. Here's how it goes, right? Take it or leave it. It's your choice. So these are a couple of things that really help me stop picking up after everybody. And it reminds me a lot of that verse. I wrote it down here. Proverbs 29:17. Discipline your son, and he will give you rest. Discipline your son, and he will give you rest. So when I notice that I'm not feeling restful about the state of our home and picking up after everybody, it is not giving me any rest. I'm tired, I'm irritated, I'm feeling cranky and resentful, and I'm about ready to blow. Then it's a warning sign to me, kind of like the lights going off in your car and telling you, warning, warning, pay attention. You haven't been disciplining your children. You haven't been expecting any, boundaries to be kept by them. Maybe it's time for me to hold the line on our family rules that make sense, that flow from God's law of honor your father and mother, for example. And here in the kingdom of the Hills family home, where I am the queen alongside my husband, we do have family rules. We do have boundaries, and I don't need to ask permission, because they're by no means dishonorable. I'm not asking you to, do something that would breach God's law. There are reasonable expectations to clean up after yourself before you move on to the next thing. I train them from the time they're little to, just flow from one thing to another, and that I'm not always picking up after them. Get them to participate in taking small things and moving on to the bigger things. But then if you realize that you're getting so mad, then it's time to step back. Look at what's not working. And maybe one of the tricks and tips that I've shared with you today is something you could just try again, so you can emotionally, detach from the situation and not just use screaming or yelling or shaming to control the situation, but instead take control of yourself, the choices you can make, and then train your children into taking more responsibility for themselves as well. Great life training, because we all have to live with other people in this world, whether you're in a big family or a small family. Learning how to take responsibility for yourself, learning how to, pick up after yourself. It's life training. So if you feel like you're falling into sort of the extreme ditch on either side, you're resorting to screaming and yelling, or you're just having to do it all the time, then there is somewhere in the middle that's going to work for you. And if you'd appreciate some more support, some more creative suggestions that you could test out in your family and find a good approach for the whole family, or maybe even one individual child who's really having a hard time with this particular concept of picking up after themselves, feel free to join my Big Family Moms group. There's a link in today's video. You're welcome to join there. Hundreds of big family moms all over the world who are encouraging each other as we grow in grace and overcome common big family mom struggles. So back to the shoes. It's not an issue anymore, because I now have a habit, and it's been a few seasons that the 6, the 8, the 10-year-olds have heard me say again, hey, remember, where do your shoes go? And now they know. They got a little bit of memory here. I'll say, and what happens if you leave them on the floor? So this is what I do. I mentioned it earlier. If they keep their shoes, their Crocs, their boots on the floor, rather than just putting it in the simple space I've created, it takes them like what, 2 seconds, 1 second longer. I just calmly pick up the shoes. But if I pick up the shoes, I don't put them back where they go. I put them up high. I've got these like 8-foot tall cabinets and I'm 6 feet tall, so I can reach really high. I just gently put them up on the top cabinet and walk away. Well, an hour later, when they're ready to go outside, they're like, where are my shoes? Where are my shoes? Oh, I don't even have to say anything. The shoes come back the next day. So there's a grace to, try again. And then I just say, they're like, well, what am I going to wear? And I'm like, well, what do you have left? They're like, I only have my rain boots to wear. And it's 20 degrees outside. Hang on. Most of you are American. It's hot. It's getting hot outside, right? I'm like, well, maybe you want to go get some socks so you don't get some blisters. So it just lets them know cause and effect, right? In this world, choices lead to consequences, and you get to choose the outcome of what happens next. And that's true for us as moms too. We have a lot of control that we can have over the situation to train our children well and not be picking up after everybody.
Just wants to show you something.
Thank you for interrupting so politely. What's up? Are you hurt? Oh.
Yeah.
What do you want, buddy? A Band-Aid or a little ice?
I use a Band-Aid.
Okay, you know where they are. Got a little scratch. So I just want to encourage you that there is a way out. And like I said, if you'd like some more support, some creative, suggestions, or even just a place where you can vent with other big family moms who are not going to shame you for having all those kids in the first place, then you know where to go, and I'll meet you there. So I'm going to pop out. This little girl's ready to get wrapped up for another round of naps. I'll see you later in the group. Take care until then.